Chapter 289, 50th Floor, 3. Present your neck. You evil cult leader. The hunters swung their swords. Upper left. Upper right. From behind. In an instant, blades targeted my life from 3 directions. Clang! I hastily raised my shield to parry the most urgent strike. I'm telling you, I'm not the bad guy. The wicked cultist spews lies. The apparent leader among them snorted disdainfully. Don't listen to him. Mayhos said that this man's tongue is more dangerous than any sword. Once he starts his rhetoric, the heavens overturn, and the earth is mocked. His tongue truly births devils. Without realizing it, we could be enchanted, so be very cautious. But who is he, really? The hunters I confronted swallowed their saliva. Their eyes were filled with fear as they looked at me. Terrifying. His appearance seems so innocently naive. To think such pure evil lurks behind that simple face. It's truly frightening. Are you all blind or what? Ha! Even amidst this, the battle continued. The skills of Mayhos' followers were, well, not particularly terrifying. In the past, they might have given me trouble, but frankly, their level of aura control was far inferior to mine. The lone seeker of truth is interested in your realm of skill. The eye living in the labyrinth doubts you are truly a beginner. 3, 6, 12 of them formed formations and attacked together, but it wasn't overwhelming. Unlike ordinary martial arts, aura is a martial art of the plane. With enough aura to dominate space, no matter how numerous the enemies, it only became a slight annoyance. I was just dumbfounded by the ridiculous quest content, not really in a predicament. What? Is this really the prowess of someone who just arrived on the 50th floor? The followers of Mayhos seemed shocked by me. They continuously changed formations, employing various techniques, but I remained immovable. As their synchronized attacks piled up, the followers of Mayhos became more anxious. It's impossible. He must have made a pact with a devil. Not a devil, but I did adopt a ghost. How could he have reached such a level by normal means? He must have treaded the path of heretical magic. Well, I did build my skills with some abnormal abilities. Quickly call for reinforcements. This cult leader commands the dead. It said he summons soldiers from hell, the ones he's killed. We're all dead if we don't subdue him before he gets a chance to cast his summoning spell. Wow. I knew it when they said he was the Death King. A truly evil being. It's different but not entirely incorrect. Hurry up. We are fighting him now, so he can't cast spells, but if he gets a chance, he'll perform a summoning. We're all dead if we don't subdue him first. Really? Sword Emperor Nim. What? I just realized something. I effortlessly countered and twisted the aura of the 20 followers. Responding to each of the 20 strands of aura, I bent them back onto the followers. This can't be. The followers were in disbelief. I listened to their screams in a daze. Maybe, just maybe, I don't think so, but just in case, I have to ask.
Yeah.
Do I appear like a really bad guy to others? Is that even a question to ask now? Bei Hurayung replied as if it was obvious. You totally give off the vibe of an evil boss. Why? Hey, zombie. Think deeper about why I call you a zombie. Because I'm a psychopath with a broken moral compass. There are many reasons why I call you a zombie, but one of them is to mock your lich-like qualities. A lich? Yes, a lich. An undead sorcerer. They gain power by sacrificing their own life and use the corpses of those they've killed as their minions. To those who don't know any better, you just look like a minion of evil. I was dumbstruck. That's ridiculous. I'm a hero. I've been recognized as one since the 11th floor. Isn't that right, Shiny? Shiny acknowledges you as the true and genuine hero. Huh. It seemed like Shiny hesitated before answering. Or was it just my imagination? The Warhorse of the Eternal Plains acknowledges your extraordinary skills. The Warhorse of the Eternal Plains expands the scope of your quest. Warning. The range of your associated quests has expanded to encompass the entire city. As I was subduing the followers of Mayhos one by one, an ominous warning sound echoed. It was a message I had never heard before. But I could tell it wasn't good news for me. Over there. Sure enough, hunters began pouring out from the direction of the city. There's the Lich. Catch the minion of the devil. Oh, Mayhos, protect us. Surprisingly, all the hunters could use aura. Whether skilled or not, they each employed different aura techniques and approached at high speed. Watching dozens of hunters leaping and using lightness skills was like seeing a swarm of cockroaches jumping towards me. It was a scene that could rival any horror movie. Here, it's basic for hunters to know how to use aura. What was more daunting was the sight of dozens more people following them. Oh boy. I barely held back a snicker. Of course, I could easily repel them using 100 Ghosts Reincarnation. But if I use 100 Ghosts Reincarnation, here, I'll definitely be labeled as the Lich King. I sighed inwardly. I might escape the immediate danger, but it seemed like it would cause more headaches later. There were probably forces watching this fight from afar. In such a situation, if I displayed my might leading the ghosts, I'd definitely be branded as the evil boss of the 50th floor. Eventually, I reached one solution. Let's make a run for it. A very simple answer. There's no benefit in fighting these guys. Why bother with unnecessary battles? Chuckle. Wise decision. I concentrated my aura on my thighs, hamstrings, calves, and soles, then seized a brief moment when the followers of Mayhos paused to catch their breath, and whoosh! I quickly distanced myself from the ground. No! The Lich is escaping. Sorry to say, but the encirclement laid out by Mayhos followers was frankly of low quality. Having developed the Infernal Heavens formation with a burqa, what they did was just a combined attack with mere numbers. Although they had learned the same martial arts, they did not share the same mindset, so even dozens of them collaborating only resulted in disarrayed aura. Well, it took our goblins several generations, hundreds of years, to enjoy the fire painting play and learn the Infernal Heavens formation. It's hard for ordinary hunters to mimic such formations. I left the battlefield with a newfound sense of pride in my people. Chase him. The followers of Mayhos clumsily began their pursuit. However, by the time their leader said chase and shouted him, I was already far away. It happened in an instant. A few of the more skilled hunters pursued me. But that also lasted only briefly. In less than 6 seconds, cries of astonishment from my pursuers echoed behind me. My God! How can he be so fast? We can't do this. Contact other branches. We'll lose him if it continues like this. Those voices of astonishment soon faded into the distance, becoming inaudible. Maybe I should move a bit more cautiously from now on. After shaking off my pursuers, I didn't stop moving. I darted back and forth across the wilderness, approaching the city only to abruptly change direction. I visited each of the city's entrances, north, south, east, and west. This should keep me from getting caught. I even took off my outer clothes and tucked them by my side. As a temporary measure, I messed up my hair, changing its style, and then fixed it with aura. Okay. From a distance, it wouldn't be easy to recognize me. Perhaps my colleagues who usually know me might, but to the followers of Mayhos, I was practically a stranger. Is this enough? After about 20 minutes. The warhorse of the Eternal Plains sighs. The warhorse of the Eternal Plains acknowledges the failure of the quest. It seemed my prediction was correct as the message refreshed. The quest you are involved in has changed. Difficulty is being adjusted. Linked quest in progress. The quest is disclosed. I quickly glanced at the text that appeared before me. Plus. Death King Pursuit Order. Difficulty, A+. Mission objective: unfortunately, the Death King has broken through the encirclement and escaped. Brave warriors had surrounded him and put him in jeopardy, but he used his reserved strength at the last moment to flee, and we failed to catch him. If the Death King enters the city and goes into hiding, the 50th floor will face a great catastrophe. He is more poisonous than any plague and more vicious than the Black Death. No human-made cure can handle this villain. Hurry and find the Death King, and inform your comrades. Warriors, only you can preserve the city's peace and uphold righteousness. Other forces have recognized the Death King's potential and are attempting to approach him. If the cunning groups collaborate with the Death King, a tremendous disaster will befall. However, you cannot participate in this quest. You are the target subject of the quest. Plus. What can I say? I'd find endless faults if I started nitpicking, but for now, I understand that I'm increasingly resembling a villain straight out of Legends. Oh my, what in the world is all this? I tore one part of my pants. Rip. I rolled up the torn fabric and wrapped it around my neck like a scarf. Adjusting it to cover my mouth, I was sufficiently disguised. Why are they harassing innocent people? Are all the constellations like this? Their tendencies are all different, but their personalities are somewhat similar. What do you mean? I entered the city. Your body begins to be eroded by the void poison. Your current erosion progression is LV.1. Your aura neutralizes the void poison. Erosion has stopped. At the city's entrance, there were slums and a bustling market. Thanks to this, I easily blended into the crowd. Surrounded by the noisy clamor of people talking and trading, I felt at ease and chatted with Bei Hurayong. I told you earlier that the constellations are like game masters. They are literally GMs. Each one has its own different tendency. Master. And the followers who serve a constellation can be seen as players. When a master opens a session and issues a quest, the followers of that constellation decide whether to participate or not. Is this quest suitable for my level? Can I really achieve it? Before long, I saw a familiar shop. A roadside pub. No building, no walls. Just tables and chairs, and a bar where the manager stood. It was the very open-air pub where I had sat and talked with Constellation Killer when I unofficially visited the 50th floor using a cheat. But as I said, each constellation has its own unique tendency. What kind of tendency does Mayhos have? I asked, casually taking a seat at the bar. Combat-oriented. Bei Hurayong answered immediately. His quests are pretty straightforward. An enemy appears that must be defeated. If the enemy isn't defeated, the world is in danger. So, beat them. Oh. They escaped? Chase them. Oh, you defeated them? Here's your reward. Simple, right? Indeed. Listening to Bei Hurayong, I got a rough idea of what kind of constellation the warhorse of the Eternal Plains was. What about that blonde guy you caught? Gold hair or something? Anyway, the quests get more complicated as they reach the level of an apostle, like him. But such cases are rare. Most of the followers are just battle maniacs. But these seemingly simple quests are surprisingly popular. Actually, they might be the most popular. Mayhos might not be good at other things, but he sure knows how to provide rewards. Battles that match the difficulty level and items worth their value. It seems easy to lure followers with these too. I ordered an iced tea from the owner and sipped it. I get what you're saying, but why do the constellations do all this? Bei Hurayong smirked mischievously. Because it's the easiest way to receive worship. What? You see, zombie, you've never served a constellation, so you don't know yet. Put yourself in their shoes. Constellations create quests and rewards on purpose for you hunters. Just for you. To make your life more interesting. I tilted my head, not quite grasping Bei Hurayong's words. Bei Hurayong, knowing I wouldn't understand, explained further. Think about Hamustra. From your perspective, it seemed like Hamustra just threw you into a doomed world for his own amusement, watching you struggle and chuckle. But look at it from another angle. Hamustra collected worlds to give you quests. Do you think it's easy, even for a constellation? They have to scour through destroyed worlds, then select apocalypses that match your level. It's hard work, really. I was struck by a fresh shock. I had never thought of it that way before. Zombie. Do you think the constellations go through all that trouble because they find hunters pretty? Or because they enjoy watching you suffer and die? Normally, constellations are much more powerful than ordinary hunters. If they wanted to kill you, a mere gesture would suffice. You're right. That makes sense. In some sense, constellations are devoted to you. Sure, they have various reasons for issuing quests, but their primary goal is the same. Bei Hurayong continued. Worship. Worship. If you serve a constellation, you'll understand. Completing their quests and receiving rewards, you start to feel like you're becoming a hero. Life becomes fun. You feel like you're not just yourself anymore, but someone else, someone meaningful in this world. Someone far superior to me, a constellation, is creating events just for me and acknowledging my existence. It's an addictive drug, the thrill of an RPG. I see. I had never blindly followed the path laid out by constellations, so my perspective was fundamentally different from the hunters who had surrounded me in the wilderness. That's why the bond between constellations and their followers is immense. Followers naturally worship the constellations that recognize and reward them. They adore and love them. This worship is the purest form of faith, and constellations sustain their existence on this adoration. Just then. Kaboom! My glass on the table shook, the ground trembled, and other tables around us toppled trays and plates. I reflexively looked towards the direction of the explosion. Chapter 290, Abandoned Disciples, 1. Kwang! As the explosion was heard, the patrons of the tavern were flustered. What is it? What's happening? Damn it. It's starting again. The customers neither evacuated nor hid under the tables. They simply grabbed the glasses and snacks on the table with both hands, worried they might spill. Here, on the 50th floor, an explosion was just a part of everyday life. Mic test. Mic test. Amidst the chaos in the tavern, a voice echoed from the sky. Along with the others, I looked towards the source of the voice. We would like to apologize for all the noise from the Magic Tower. Magic Tower. That place, along with this open-air tavern, was a familiar sight on the 50th floor. When I had tried to catch the constellation killer before, the witches of the magic tower had participated. Their headquarters, the magic tower, consisted of 5 spires, towering into the sky. Like the fingers of a giant of the earth reaching for the sky. The force that has ruled this 50th floor for over 1,000 years. Was that it? I glanced at Bei Hurayong. Isn't this place a bit of a nemesis for you? No, no. I don't have any particular feelings towards them. Bei Hurayong claimed nonchalantly. It's just that they unilaterally hate me. Really? In fact, I'm rather aggrieved. But didn't you say you demolished one of the original 6 towers? How is that an aggrieved person's action? Now, look. Those kids are gloomy, right? Always cooped up in the tower, doing research, the place almost reeks of mold. I punched a hole in the tower to suggest they get some air once in a while. Thinking about it, I should be thanked. I even remodeled it for free. The richest guys on the 50th floor have no decency, TSK. It seems more like you just lack morals. The voice from the magic tower continued to echo grandly across the city. People drinking in the open air, merchants at their stalls, vagrants playing dice in broad daylight, everyone paused their daily lives and looked up blankly at the 5 towers. I am the spokesperson of the magic tower. Well, it's not much of a story. Today, some terrorists who don't know their place tried to mess with us, so I have to make this announcement. The explosion that just rang in your ears was the work of those terrorists. Hey. Drag them here. No, not there. SSH. Right. There. Yes. At that moment, voices other than the spokesperson's sharply cut through. The magic tower is imprisoning our comrades. We are the disciples of Hamustra. I hesitated for a moment. Disciples of Hamustra? We are all officially recognized librarians. The magic tower is illegally oppressing and imprisoning us. Everyone. If we don't all rise up together now, someday you too will end up like us. Okay, that's enough. Phew. The sigh of the spokesperson was heard. Anyway, these masterless folks only have loud voices. All right, has everyone grasped the situation? This disturbance was entirely caused by losers abandoned by their constellations. Please be aware of that. Shut up. We have not been abandoned by Lord Hamustra. Do you know the difference between the strong and the weak? The strong only need to be quiet when they want to be, but the weak have to be quiet even when they don't want to. Quagic. A strange bursting sound erupted from beyond the sky. Yes, as you can see, these guys are weak. It would be fortunate if they were only weak, but they even tried to break our magic tower's security system because they are also foolish. As a result, well, I have one of their teeth in my hand now. You get the picture, right? I advise everyone not to mess with the magic tower. The surroundings buzzed with activity. Oh. Are you challenging me? Listen, when I say shut up, it doesn't just mean your mouth. It means your eyes too. Quagic, TSSSS, key. An ominous sound continued to rise into the murky sky. With each twist of the sound, gasps and groans were intertwined with someone's screams. The moans broke into 7 parts and scattered across the sky above the 50th floor. Silence descended upon the open-air tavern. The hunters, each wary of the other, tried to ignore the screams coming from the sky. They all recognized it as a kind of public execution. Only the tavern owner grumbled, "TCH, it's ruining business," as he wiped the bar. Mic test once more. I ask everyone, if you happen to walk by and see former disciples of Hamustra, please report it. These guys are quite nasty, you know? There might even be a small reward, so think of it as cooperating with the city's security on a national level. Sigh, this is also annoying. Anyway, you got it all, right? Right now, I have 8 teeth in my hand, incisors, canines, premolars. These could belong to your friend or even you. Wish you all the best. The voice abruptly stopped. The sky, as always, was wrapped in silence. However, the people of the 50th floor city seemed to find the silence in the sky burdensome. About 10 seconds passed before the usual hustle and bustle of everyday life slowly returned. Those bastards. Catching more rat-like disciples again. Poor librarians. But, where did Hamustra disappear to? It's obvious, isn't it? The constellation killer must have killed him.
Ugh.
Because of that one guy, so many are suffering. It was a conversation I couldn't help but be interested in. I turned towards the table next to me. Excuse me. I have a question, if you don't mind. What is it? An elderly hunter furrowed his brows. He was a hunter with curly hair and an eye patch over his left eye. Not just her, but all the hunters at the table, regardless of gender, had curly hair and wore eye patches. Overwhelmed by their striking appearance, I momentarily lost my words. I stuttered, trying to ask as politely as possible. No, it's just that. I haven't been up to date with the 50th floor's affairs lately. It's been what, 3 months? I just got here after 3 months. What exactly is going on with the magic tower? You haven't heard that Hamustra has disappeared? The curly-haired hunters stared at me intently. It was quite intimidating. I think I've heard something like that. Oh dear, there's a widespread rumor that the constellation killer killed him. It seemed that the curly-haired hunters group was desperate for someone to listen to their chatter. They enthusiastically discussed amongst themselves while tearing into a peculiarly shaped bread snack. It's been a while since the corner librarian's faith was completely cut off. Hamustra was always indifferent to his disciples, so even if you talked to him, he wouldn't respond, but now, it feels like he doesn't exist at all. Here. This friend used to be a disciple of Hamustra. Curly Hair A nudged Curly Hair B in the ribs. Curly Hair B grimaced and mumbled something while chewing on a piece of bread, clearly uncomfortable with the topic. Quiet. I'm not one anymore. Hamustra's disciples might not have been many, but they were fiercely loyal. And then he just disappeared suddenly? I can understand why the librarians are in despair. I sensed an ominous premonition. Had Hamustra lost his power as a constellation, and because of that, something significant, something I hadn't anticipated and hadn't been aware of until now, occurred? That was the corner librarian originally popular? No, not particularly. Curly Hair A asserted confidently. The corner librarian is just too unfriendly to hunters. Why, other constellations give small quests one by one, leading naturally to the final quest, right? Yes. Is that so? I've never worshipped a constellation, so I wouldn't know. But Curly Hair A didn't seem to realize that I wasn't a follower of any constellation. He spoke as if it was the most natural thing. But the corner librarian is different. He just throws a goal like, save this world from destruction, at you and leaves the rest up to you. TSK. It's irresponsibility to the point of driving people crazy. No rewards during quests. No hints. Even if a hunter is in danger, most constellations give a chance or two, but not him. He just lets you die mercilessly. You can say it's high freedom, but on the flip side, it's just a constellation neglecting its disciples. How can it be popular? That's what I liked about Lord Hamustra, his strictness. Curly Hair Bee, who had been quietly eating snacks, spoke up. Ordinary constellations just give quests and that's it. Lord Hamustra, he gave us a world to shine in. Understand? He prepared everything and then didn't interfere with the players at all. How amazing is that? See? There's a fanatic for you, I chuckled. But now it's over. As I said, the response has completely disappeared. These disciples are really ignorant. If their master is dead, they should just pick another constellation and start serving it, but Hamustra's disciples are so loyal they won't switch faiths. Instead, they band together trying to survive. Do you think those spider-like people from the magic tower will leave them alone? Of course not, they'll capture these masterless hunters and enslave them. Shut up. Lord Hamustra isn't dead. He's just gone into hiding to escape the constellation killer's pursuit. Whoa, scary. Should I shut up because you said so? Didn't the magic tower folks say the strong don't have to? I've been a hunter serving, the lone seeker of truth, for over 20 years. I'm about to become an apostle. And you? Aren't you just a loser who lost your beloved master and switched faiths? You bastard. Excuse me. I cautiously interjected between the arguing hunters. What if Hamustra wasn't killed by the constellation killer? Huh? What? The hunters looked at me as if I was speaking nonsense, their eyes filled with condescension, seeing me as a naive beginner. I couldn't reveal the truth to these people, so I cautiously continued. What I mean is, there's no confirmed reason for Hamustra's disappearance, right? Maybe it wasn't the constellation killer. Or maybe, just maybe, he might not even be dead. Not dead? Curly Hair A asked mockingly. The aura of the constellation is completely gone. Disciples call out, but there's no response. And if he's not dead, what, did he run away from home? Maybe, he descended to become human. What, descended? Human? A laughed out loud. B, who had been arguing with A, also looked incredulous. In fact, all the curly-haired hunters who were watching our conversation chuckled.
Ha!
This guy is definitely a newbie. Descended? I've never heard such a thing in my life. Listen, young man. Constellations are constellations, and humans are humans. Especially Hamustra, a renowned constellation among constellations. Dying is one thing, but where did you hear such an absurd urban legend? But it's true. Hamustra really became human and is working part-time at a cafe. He's even popular with the customers, receiving lots of tips. Of course, it's possible that someone other than the constellation killer killed Hamustra. Maybe another constellation. But that's unlikely. No one has ever claimed to have killed Hamustra. Such a feat would be remarkable. Who would hide it?
Yeah.
Hunters wouldn't miss a chance to boast about themselves. And constellations have no reason to hide it either. It must be the constellation killer, that madman. I asked one last question. Really, what if it wasn't the constellation killer? What then? That's when it happened. Curly Hair Bee's eyes flashed dangerously. We'd have to catch and kill that bastard. Bang! Unable to contain his anger, Bee slammed his fist on the table. How dare someone other than the constellation killer harm our celestial librarian, our precious master? I'd throw him to the void monsters after cutting off his tongue. The villain. I'd tear him limb from limb, impale him from head to toe. B's eyes, a former disciple of Hamustra, blazed with fury. It was a terrifying killing intent. The other hunters joined in, agreeing vehemently. Hamustra fanatics are formidable. Their love for their master is genuine. TSK. You may not know, but if there were a real culprit, all the disciples of Hamustra in the universe, hunters from every stage would swarm to kill them.
Yeah.
The extermination squad would easily number in the thousands. It's only because the Constellation Killer is a universal-level lunatic that everyone keeps quiet. If it's someone other than the Constellation Killer? Oh boy, that would be real chaos. I don't even want to think about it. There would be a bloodbath. All hunters except B laughed heartily. As if they had heard an amusing joke. Of course, I didn't find it funny at all. Zombie. Do you understand now? Everything I said was the absolute truth, without a single lie. Bei Hurayung chuckled at me, who was sweating profusely. You really are the boss of evil, you crazy cult leader lich.
Yeah.
At least I know there's one thing I need to resolve on the 50th floor. Chapter 291, Abandoned Disciples, 2. Disciples. Ah, there were some. Hamustra spoke from the other side of the communicator. Sounds of exertion, yucha, intermittently came through, probably from moving boxes in the cafe. There were disciples? I leaned closer to the communicator. You have disciples, don't you? Isn't it a bit negligent of you? Oh, that's a bit harsh. Hamustra responded in a nonchalant tone. Lord. I never asked them to become my disciples. They volunteered themselves. They called themselves librarians and claimed to be my hands and feet, but frankly, they were bothersome. There was a clear sense of annoyance in Hamustra's tone, as if dealing with flies that kept buzzing around the dining table no matter how much you swat them away. His attitude was entirely different from how he dealt with me or the Constellation Killer. But is it really okay to use this precious one-time communicator for talking to me? As far as I know, this is one of the special tools crafted by Kwangyak Messenger. Of course, I'd be very happy if you think talking to me is worth it, but... No, it's not that. Let's get back to the main point. Not that. Right, the disciples. Why bring them up suddenly? I explained the current situation, starting with actually, something happened. At first, Hamustra listened casually, but as the story progressed, his tone became more serious. The noise from the other side of the communicator had stopped. He must have paused his box-moving task to focus entirely on my story. Indeed, even I feel a bit pricked by conscience. Certainly. I didn't care about the librarians at all, not even a speck or a shell, when I descended with you. His statement would make any disciple cry. It's really bothering me too. It feels like I've inadvertently harmed innocent people by dragging Hamustra into becoming human. As I said, the librarians chose to be my disciples of their own accord. If they abandon their faith in me now and turn to another constellation, there should be no problem. But it seems they have to bear the consequences of their own choices. Hamustra sighed as if resigned. Considering your personality, you won't just let this go. All right. It's embarrassing and shameful, but can I leave something I neglected to you? Of course. I nodded. I didn't contact you to blame you. It's about the disciples of Hamustra, after all. I just wanted your consent and permission. I'll handle it, so just add this to the list of things you owe me. Damn. It's a pity. If I were still a constellation, I would have sent a message saying, "The favor of the corner librarian greatly increases," right now. Why is he regretting something like that? So, constellations enjoy sending messages. Forget the message. Is there any kind of token or something? Token? Sorry, I don't understand. What kind of token are you talking about? If I were to rescue the librarians trapped in the magic tower. Something to show them that I'm on their side. Like a symbol of Hamustra. A passphrase, something like that. I see. Hamustra pondered. There's no convenient item like that. But there is one way that might work. What is it? Among the librarians trapped in the magic tower, there's likely a hunter I know. Hamustra said. His alias is the assistant writer. What kind of life must one lead to earn the alias, the assistant writer? I was burning with curiosity about this person's life and history, but the communicator I was using had a time limit. I reluctantly held back my questions. The assistant writer holds a unique reputation among the librarians who have given up climbing the tower on the 50th floor. He must be over 600 years old. If the spiders of the magic tower started capturing librarians, they wouldn't have left the assistant writer alone. Among the disciples, he was as revered as my own apostle. So, he's essentially the leader of Hamustra's disciples. I nodded in understanding. So, if I gain the trust of that hunter, that should do it. Exactly. The assistant writer has entered the revelation twice to undertake quests. I remember the ending of the first revelation he was in. That revelation was a solo quest, only the assistant writer entered. Meaning, Hamustra continued. Only I and the assistant writer know the whole story of that quest. It's a secret between the two of us. Scenes and dialogues that even the audience didn't get to see or hear. Now, I will tell you a line from that secret dialogue. A line that no one else in this world would know, except for Hamustra. I listened intently to the words Hamustra was about to impart. The next day, I immediately set the plan into motion. The reason I spent the night was not arbitrary, it was to save at a save point. If I happened to die, I didn't want to regress to the first floor but rather to the 50th. All right. Let's get moving. I stepped out onto the street. It had only been a night since the chase occurred. Even though not much time had passed, several things had already happened. The warhorse of the Eternal Plains encourages its disciples to undertake quests. The warhorse of the Eternal Plains emphasizes the danger of the evil heretic cult leader. First off, Mayhos hadn't given up on me. Instead, he was desperately trying to catch me by increasing quest rewards. How cute! I smiled slightly. By now, Mayhos' disciples must be frantically setting up a tracking network. Unfortunately for them, the more time passed, the more difficult it would become. The teachings of the demonic cult aren't called the doctrine of shadows for nothing. Mayhos wasn't the only anxious constellation. The lone seeker of truth recommends a single quest to you. The eye living in the labyrinth recommends a single quest to you. The lotus reflected on the water is showing interest in your faith. The incarnation of love and lust recommends a single quest to you. Almost all the influential constellations on the 50th floor had sent me messages. It seems they were intrigued by how easily I evaded Mayhos' disciples yesterday. The power of a disciple directly affects the reputation of the corresponding constellation. Seeing my rise in stature, Beihurayong snickered. Zombie, you're quite the sought-after recruitment candidate. That's nice to hear. But what is a single quest? Well, as the name implies, it's short and simple. A quick task. Beihurayong explained. Constellations don't just brazenly ask someone to become their disciple. They consider compatibility, disposition, appropriate level, and so forth. Only after checking everything do they usually send a single quest. A single quest is like a trial run to see how well we mesh. But a constellation directly recommending a single quest means they are deeply interested in you. Well, no need to choose right away. You can even never choose, and it wouldn't matter. What should I do? While I pondered, Beihurayong brought up an old story. I never chose forever. Imagine how satisfying it was to ghost all those constellations that sent me single quests right in front of their eyes. They treated me like a scoundrel afterward, but so what? If they wanted to recruit a noble like me, they should have sent a worthy steed. Greetings, constellations. I sincerely appreciate your quest recommendations. Upon hearing Beihurayong's words, I immediately decided on my attitude. I believe someone is secretly observing me right now. I'm a bit busy at the moment. I will carefully review all the single quests you've recommended and then respond politely. Hey, why are you doing that? I told you to ghost them. Beihurayong was puzzled by my proactive approach, but my attitude immediately elicited responses from the constellations. The lone seeker of truth is satisfied with your answer. The eye living in the labyrinth is surprised that you are more normal than expected. The lotus reflected on the water smiles at you. The incarnation of love and lust increases the reward for the single quest. As expected. Thank you very much. I expressed my gratitude once again. You're a strange one. Kid, I told you, constellations are all perverted lunatics. Why are you being so polite to them? Sword Emperor Nim, I've learned something from my time as a hunter. What's that? First, doing the exact opposite of what?
Yo. So. Ha!
Does always scores me 100 points? Heard that one several times. I wonder how that brat is doing. But you said first, is there a second? Second, doing the exact opposite of what you do scores me at least 50 points. You little. Thank you for being my second role model. The constellations were certainly cautious about me. As soon as I showed a bit of courtesy and proved I wasn't a psycho or an old fogey, they shot me messages. The lone seeker of truth asks if you are truly planning to oppose the magic tower. Yes, I am. The eye living in the labyrinth expresses curiosity about your relationship with Hamustra. It's hard to say right now. I know who Hamustra is. I'll tell you more as we get to know each other better. The lotus reflected on the water asks if it's okay to continue observing you dealing with the magic tower. Yes, of course. When I need to do something alone, I'll let you know to look away, but until then, feel free to watch. The incarnation of love and lust is curious if the person you've been talking to by yourself is your imaginary lover. What? What the hell? Oh, sorry. I'm married. I have my own love. The chatter in my ears suddenly became loud and bustling. At least one of the constellations turned out to be an exceptional lunatic, but apart from that, they all eagerly discussed through me as their medium. Their attitude towards me had become much lighter compared to yesterday. The lone seeker of truth complains that the magic tower is blocking all quests on the 50th floor. Among the chatter, there were some useful pieces of information. The eye living in the labyrinth confirms that this is indeed the case. The incarnation of love and lust regrets that due to the magic tower, many disciples can't progress beyond the 50th floor, even with long campaign quests. The lotus reflected on the water neither agrees nor disagrees. The lone seeker of truth advises that infiltrating the magic tower would be almost impossible for you. Indeed. It seemed the constellations weren't too fond of the magic tower. Come to think of it, Beihurayang once said that there is one constellation trapped beneath each of the magic tower's 5 spires. He mentioned that they bind the constellations alive and extract their energy. If that's true, it's no wonder the magic tower isn't on good terms with the constellations. I mulled over this as I approached the vicinity of the magic tower. Now, zombie. There were ruins spread all around. Listen carefully to what I'm about to say. The remains of a giant made of stone and wood appeared as if they had collapsed and decayed after death. Moss and mushrooms thickly covered the grotesquely piled rocks. Occasionally, unidentified bugs scurried among the debris. Even the numerous hunters of the 50th floor avoided this place, making it rarely frequented by people. This is where the 6th spire of the magic tower originally stood. About 150 years ago. It was the remains of the old spire that the Sword Emperor himself had brought down in a frenzy. Entering the magic tower legitimately is a fool's errand. It's been known for its impenetrable security since old times. Even if you just watch the magic tower, you'll be detected in 23 seconds. Security must have gotten even tighter after I wreaked havoc. However, Beihurayang added, that's for the other 5 spires that I didn't destroy. Thud. I followed the direction Beihurayang indicated. No matter how perverted the magic tower folks are, they wouldn't bother securing an already collapsed tower. Right? Navigating through the debris was challenging, but Beihurayang remembered everything precisely as if it had happened just recently, despite being over 100 years ago. Following Beihurayang's instructions, I cleared away large rocks. The lone seeker of truth is puzzled by your mysterious actions. I kept clearing away the debris, which seemed endless. Without rest, I wielded my aura and dug through the ground like a mole. The magic tower's spires are connected by secret passages. Soon, I was below ground level. Ordinary hunters, of course, don't know this, and even the magic tower's spiders usually don't. Only the real higher-ups know about these passages. I deliberately didn't destroy them when I went on a rampage back then, thinking I'd use them again later. Regrettably, I died on the 99th floor before I could complete the grand plan. Beihurayang chuckled. How about that? Making a comeback thanks to you? Creak. I split the ground with my aura, revealing not solid earth but a loosely opened crevice. I focused my aura further to widen the gap enough for a person to fit through. Then we should take advantage of it. I readied my sword. Before crawling into the underground entrance, I carved 4 characters into the rock. Sword Emperor's Return. Until just 150 years ago, it signified the return of an absolute power who had conquered the tower. At that moment, messages flooded my mind. The lone seeker of truth is shocked by the characters you carved. The eye living in the labyrinth is surprised by the terrain unknown to it. The lotus reflected on the water probes your true intentions. Good. I gathered my aura. The underground passage was pitch dark, but it brightened up easily when I shone shiny on it. Zombie, even if you're a bit lacking, you're something like my disciple, right? Let's assume that for now. Then, having reached the 50th floor, you should at least destroy a tower like I did, right? What are you talking about? I smirked. I should destroy at least 2 to uphold the name of the demonic cult. And with that, I leaped into the underground passage. Chapter 292, Abandoned Disciples, 3. The secret passage was dark and gloomy. Shine, Shiny. What are you doing not shining quickly? Shiny feels joy at hearing an order after a long time. Shiny feels a severe sense of self-loathing for feeling joy in such a situation. Since becoming a complete entity by integrating with all the sister swords, Shiny's emotions had become much richer. Yes, just like a cheese pizza topped with camembert, cheddar, and Gouda cheese. Shiny points out that you forgot Parmesan cheese. Shiny shone intensely as if craving a cheese pizza. Despite being abandoned for 150 years, the passage was fairly intact. There were parts where the rock walls had collapsed, blocking the way, but that was nothing a slash of aura couldn't handle. Don't even look to the northeast. Bei Hurayong occasionally gave advice. Even if you do look, make sure to break it off before 23 seconds. Their security system is active even underground. And don't release the aura gathered in your eyes. See that slightly differently colored stone floor? Never step on it. Okay. Should I head this way then? Where not to look, where to go, Bei Hurayong knew it all perfectly. I managed to avoid every trap, which was set at an average interval of 12 seconds. Turn left at the first fork. This time, this way. I guess. Just a hunch. The stronghold of the 50th floor's strongest power was nothing less than a quattro cheese pizza in front of me. Right. There's a monster trap ahead. Just go alongside it and wall run. Wow. Right again. Lucky me, really lucky. Somehow, I had a bad feeling about turning right at that fork. All the while, I kept muttering to myself. Of course, it wasn't because I was insane. Weren't you? Hey. What do you take me for? Well, for you. Contrary to Bei Hurayong's wicked imagination, it was to confuse the watching constellations. As if I was continuously overcoming obstacles due to sheer luck. As if I had a fortune or exploration skill that made avoiding traps so easy, I didn't stop babbling like that. The lone seeker of truth is at a loss for words at your pace of advancement. The thirsty noblewoman wants to smack you on the back. The incarnation of love and lust thinks about smacking your butt too. The eye living in the labyrinth is very suspicious of the skills you possess. Okay. Even though there are some weird fellows, these constellations sure are taking the bait well. I swiftly traversed the secret passage. I could feel myself getting closer to the headquarters of the Mage Tower. As I walked, something similar to aura, but much stickier and dense like a toxic fog, became stronger. Stop. Abruptly, I halted at Bei Hurayong's command. This part is crucial. There was nothing visible on the passage floor illuminated by shiny. But Bei Hurayong spoke seriously, as if there was a red starting line drawn. The mages of the Mage Tower, commonly known as spiders, all have biometric engravings on their bodies. These engravings serve as a sort of ID, allowing them to move freely. From this point onward, anyone without the spider's engraving is recognized as an outsider, and an alarm will be triggered. Somehow, it feels like recklessly walking from here on would be a big mistake. But that's also a detection magic. It takes time for the magic to actually activate. It seems like it's not an instant reactive trap, judging from a quick look. Bei Hurayong chuckled at my natural acting. -6 seconds. Bei Hurayong lifted his left hand and pointed ahead. You need to pass through in 6 seconds. In truth, I'm not sure if it's 6 or 7 seconds. Anyway, when I tried it in the past, running through in 6 seconds didn't trigger the alarm. I turned my head. The passage stretched endlessly. It was a dark abyss, too deep for Shiny's light to fully illuminate. I casually picked up a stone. Filled with aura, I threw it with all my might, like a baseball player. The stone flew straight ahead. Apart from the sound of the projectile piercing through the air, there was silence. Only after a while did a faint thud. indicate that it had hit something. Even as an empty statement, the exit of the passage did not seem close. It's a bit far, isn't it? Bei Huraion chuckled. Che. Do you now have a sense of how great I was back in the day? I was like a comet streaking across the sky. And you know, my hair was red too. It fluttered like the tail of a comet. While listening to him, I looked around the passage. So, you crossed it in 6 seconds, right? Of course. Bei Huraion shrugged his shoulders. Walking like I was taking a stroll, it took me 6 seconds. Good. This should be fun. Esteemed constellations, I may not be an expert in magic, but I'm good at sniffing out magic. It seems like the spiders here have set up some nasty traps. I sheathed shiny and then started stretching, focusing on my thighs and calves to loosen up. You all showed interest in me just arriving on the 50th floor. So, I want to give you the opportunity to judge what kind of person I am. The lone seeker of truth feels intrigued by your words. The eye living in the labyrinth knows what lies ahead but remains silent. As I sheathed shiny, darkness enveloped everything. The air was cold, and a strange, ominous magical power lingered like fog. The darkness seemed to wriggle like tangible tentacles. I finished my warm-up exercises and took a deep breath. I'm running. Lightfoot. The Lightfoot technique I learned was a creation of my master, refined and improved from a technique originally passed down from the Kunlun sect. I'm running. The secret wasn't just wrapping aura around the legs and feet. Beneath my feet, I formed aura into small spheres, or like sponges. I don't directly step on the ground. I step on these clumps of aura under my feet, simultaneously applying force through my legs and detonating these tiny aura clumps. It's a continuous repetition of this process. Naturally, a slight mistake could cripple my legs. It's difficult enough to manipulate aura around the legs without damaging bones and muscles, let alone using the explosive power of aura as propulsion. Did you say 6 seconds? Facing Bei Huraion's jest, I condensed the aura beneath my feet stronger than ever, like a child packing mud into balls. Layer by layer, I wrapped the aura around these small nuggets, creating springs ready to explode at any moment. I'll show you a 5-second cut. And then, I burst forward. Perhaps, shot forward, would be more accurate to describe the speed. Oh ho! 1 second. In the midst of the vast darkness, I heard Bei Huraion's whistle. I grinned and focused solely on creating and stepping on aura springs. The reactions of others, aside from Bei Huraion, were more intense. The lone seeker of truth is astonished by your aura manipulation. 2 seconds. The wind grazing my cheeks was sharp. I wrapped my entire body in aura. A sticky curtain of magic, like a spider web, tried to block my charge. Of course, I tore through it as I advanced. The eye living in the labyrinth is certain that you're no beginner. 3 seconds had passed, but the end of the passage was still not in sight. However, the intensity of the web-like magical power grew stronger. My form was clearly getting closer to the mage tower, and at a very fast pace. 4 seconds. I ran even faster. I compressed the aura springs under my feet stronger, more fiercely. I began to feel the sensation of straining my body beyond its limits, but it didn't matter. 5 seconds. Finally, my senses detected a solid rock wall blocking the path. A dead end. The end of the secret passage. The entrance was revealed. If I slowed down now, I would just barely make the 6-second cut and smoothly stop in front of the entrance. Not yet. But I just kept running. 5 seconds. At that moment, crash. My body collided with the dark barrier. It was less a collision and more like I just demolished the wall. Even though I had covered my entire body with aura, the impact was inevitable, and I rolled on the ground. Ow. Ouch. Rumble. The barrier I had broken through crumbled, and bricks fell apart. Amidst the rising dust, I slowly got up while massaging my thighs. There was no alarm signaling an intruder. Dear constellations. It seems I've successfully passed through the secret passage. My thighs are just. I pushed myself a bit too hard. The eye living in the labyrinth is at a loss for words. The lone seeker of truth starts to feel sorry for the Mage Tower, which has you as an enemy. The constellations' bewilderment was clear in their messages. The incarnation of love and lust realizes you are crazy and is delighted. The incarnation of love and lust actively recommends not just a short quest but an epic campaign for you. The incarnation of love and lust is ready to promise you an enormous quest reward. Ignoring that guy who's been like that since a while ago. So, Sword Emperor Nim. Don't you think there is an insurmountable wall, an absolute barrier that divides the extraordinary and the genius, between 6 seconds and 5 seconds? In a way, I am a meteor surpassing a comet. A comet might seem weaker than a meteor in English, where the comet is comet and the meteor is meteor. And in most RPGs, meteor is a higher level magic than comet, so this also reflects the general perception of the world. I was just about to tease Bei Hurayong when I turned my head. Snap. I accidentally made eye contact with someone whose identity I couldn't discern. Perhaps. The person in front of me seemed to be cleaning this underground area. Looking around, I realized that the end of the secret passage was actually a sewer. The smell of cheese past its prime wafted from various places. It was clear that this place was neglected, and thus, whoever had to clean such a place was definitely not of high rank, nor a child of someone with high rank, nor even a friend of a high-ranked official's child. In short, they were surely at the very bottom of the hierarchy. The young magician, who looked like a low-ranking one, was holding a broom, his eyes wide with terror. He wiggled his toes as if to move. He was barefoot, but didn't make a move. Rather, he couldn't. He was completely frozen in fear. Intruder, intruder. There's an intruder. Hello. I grabbed the boy's shoulder, chin up. With a gentlemanly, soft smile on my face. Nice to meet you. Hick. The boy clammed up. The belated realization was, from the boy's perspective, I was a man who had just broken through a massive wall with his bare body. Moreover, I was completely fine except for feeling a bit stiff. I might have been covered in dust from head to toe, but a man looking less than human, smiling softly, was probably not very effective in forming a favorable impression. Right now, I'm a bit lost. Still, I always tried to be kind to anyone. With a beaming smile and as gently as I could, I spoke to the boy. I'm not quite sure where I am. Could you perhaps guide me? Goo. Guide? This place, it's the Mage Tower. The second division of the Mage Tower. Surely, this place isn't the Mage Tower, right? Like, even if one simply loses their way and ends up here, they're automatically treated as an intruder, and there's a need to quickly eliminate the intruder, and since the intruder doesn't want to die, they have to secretly kill any witnesses they encounter. It's not that kind of terrifying Mage Tower, is it? Eek. The boy dropped his broom. No, no. This isn't the Mage Tower. It's not. Mage Tower? I don't know where that is. Please, I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. Good. That's a relief. I nodded in genuine satisfaction. I wanted the other person to know I was satisfied, so I gave him another smile. The boy finally seemed relieved, swallowing hard with a gulp. Now he must have realized that I was harmless. I'm looking for the followers of Hamustra. I have some business with them. Sorry, but since this place isn't the Mage Tower but just a confusing location, could you guide me? The followers of Hamustra, they are strictly managed. I am. Squeeze. People should help each other out, right? I patted the boy's shoulder a bit more heartily. You can guide me, can't you? Yes, I. The boy trembled. Tears welled up in his eyes. Surprisingly, most of the human body is made up of water, which sometimes gets expelled through the eyes. I'll do it. I'll guide you, just please spare my life. See? There's still kindness in the world. I patted the boy on the back. Thank you. Nameless spider. I'll surely repay you later. Of course, if I safely escape this place, wherever it is. Let's work together to escape safely. Yes. I am Kim Gongja. And you are, magician? What's your name? Cha, Karamu, is my name. Hua. For some reason, the boy shed even more tears. I was satisfied that things were going better than expected and belatedly realized I had been in the middle of boasting to Bei Hu Ryong. Right. Anyway, Sword Emperor Nim. I was 1 second faster than you. 1 second accumulates to 10 seconds, 10 seconds to a year, and a year to 100 years, so it's fair to say I'm 100 years ahead of you, right? In other words, the demonic cult's Lightfoot technique is the best. Do you admit it? Mr. 6 seconds. Humbly acknowledge that you're 100 years behind me, who made a 5-second cut. Mr. 6 seconds. For some reason, Bei Hu Ryong had a look of utter disdain.
Yeah.
No wonder Venomous Snake is your rival. No, just go ahead and be the best. Good. Everything is perfect. Now, let's go save people in a righteous manner. Chapter 293, Return of the Sword Emperor, 1. He was overwhelmingly dominant, too much to be considered a hunter like themselves. Hey, losers? Sometimes you need to get some air to stay alive. Staying cooped up in a room all day like you lot isn't good for anyone. He was too repulsive to even be considered a fellow human. Here, take this as a favor. I'll remodel for you today, for free. The elder of the Mage Tower clenched her teeth. She had many subordinates under her. So far, 6 constellations had knelt before them, and 6 worlds had submitted to their rule. The 50th floor had long been their territory. But why? Why can't you catch that one gorilla? Because I'm a damn strong gorilla. The elder was furious. A curse involuntarily slipped from her lips. If he had been a warrior of some decency, she might have been able to accept defeat. Even if not respected, had he been decent enough to be worthy of respect, she would have willingly handed over the throne of the 50th floor to him. I won't give it up. But she couldn't admit defeat to such a brute. No, I won't. Sword Emperor, you bastard. Rather kill us. Okay. Let's do this. From now on, for every time you call me a bastard, one of your towers will fall. Deal? What? What kind of nonsense? The Sword Emperor swung his sword carelessly. All the hunters fighting on the 50th floor realized something. Even if the Sword Emperor was a bastard, what came out of his mouth wasn't just nonsense. A spire that had stood proudly for over 1,000 years was cleanly sliced off.
Ah!
The elder went insane. No. Stop it. My research. My experimental materials. No, the constellations. At least stop the one sealed underground. And that bastard. Are you okay? If you call me a bastard one more time, another tower goes, you know? Bird. Bird. Damn, bird. Oh. Right. The universe is vast, so somewhere there might be a species of bird called a damn bird. I'll acknowledge that. The elder felt like she was going to lose her mind. In fact, she had already lost it. If only she could punch that smug face, she would have been willing to lose all the research she had invested in for the past 200 years. An ancient tree, a monster, a demon. Despite the many nicknames she had, at this moment, she was nothing more than an ordinary lunatic. The Sword Emperor had the knack of turning those who confronted him into lunatics. I'll kill him. The elder swore. I'll definitely kill him. I'll leave the towers you destroyed as eternal evidence. And on the day you return to the 50th floor, damn bird, I'll capture you and imprison you in the ruins of that fallen tower. Forever. I'll stake your heart. That's why you guys never succeed. The Sword Emperor clicked his tongue and slung his sword over his shoulder. You should be thinking about chasing after me, not waiting for my return. What? I am the Sword Emperor. The #1 in the world of myriad swords. And the first righteous warrior to conquer the 100th floor in all creation. Then, something astonishing happened. The hunters on the 50th floor, who were watching the showdown, felt something from the Sword Emperor's declaration. Perhaps they were too complacent in reality? Weren't hunters meant to climb the tower? Hunting beginners who had just arrived on the 50th floor, conquering the worlds of the beginners, and comfortably sucking the honey of life, wasn't that wrong? Yes. There was a profound reason why the Sword Emperor demolished the spire of the Mage Tower. The power dominating the 50th floor isn't an eternal victor. Anyone can become a traitor. The Sword Emperor took up his sword to teach us, the common people, his noble intentions. Oh, praise him. From now on, we are the followers of the Sword Emperor, disciples of the Sword Emperor sect. Let us all follow him. Excuse me, bird. Huh? What? It's just getting to the climax. Cut the crap and guide me. It was all a story from Bei Hurayong's past. 2. As I listened to Bei Hurayong's stories about the Mage Tower, more precisely, his own useless tales of bravado, I made my way deep into the interior of the Mage Tower. Once I successfully infiltrated, the conquest turned out to be less difficult than I thought. That's because the external surveillance is excessively thorough. Bei Hurayong, seemingly in a good mood for being in a place related to his past, readily answered questions I hadn't even asked. There have been few cases of successful infiltration up to this point. Since there are hardly any intruders, there's rarely a chance to revisit internal security. Plus, right now, you're being guided by an insider. You. If the big spiders find out, they'll kill me. As Bei Hurayong said, the insider of the Mage Tower was faithfully guiding me. Was his name Karamo? The young magician trembled as he walked ahead, his long bangs obscuring his expression, but he seemed to be very fearful by nature. I've betrayed the Mage Tower. If I get caught, no, I'll definitely get caught and have my belly skin peeled off while still alive. The big spiders will say they want to see how beautiful my mana is, chop off my duodenum, marinate it in a potion, and then grill it on a torture hot plate. I'm scared. They'll definitely record my pitiful screams in harmony and play it back as an a cappella song while torturing me. Scared, scared, scared. Is this boy cooperating with me after imagining all that in such detail? Rather than being fearful, doesn't he have the courage of a fearless warrior who's lost his sense of fear? Ah, please, stop for a moment. Just as I was slightly nauseated by my companion's unusual behavior, the young magician, hugging his staff, abruptly stopped. There are guards up ahead. Struggling with the weight of a staff taller than himself, the boy shivered. If we go further, they'll notice us. There are guards? Yes, yes. The young magician shrunk at my questioning. He nervously fiddled with a strand of his bangs. They're not very strong, but they're responsible for imprisoning and monitoring the followers of Hamustra. A spider with sensitive senses has been chosen as the jailer. And you can't just recklessly kill the jailer. If they lose their life, it will automatically trigger an alarm throughout the entire mage tower. Really? That's somewhat tricky. I touched my chin, pondering. The straightforward approach would be to approach and knock them out before they notice, but I wanted to avoid risky methods if possible. Seeing my contemplation, the young magician Karamu hesitated. There's a way. Oh. I'll go and distract the jailer. You must be a great master, right? While the jailer is busy with me, you can certainly finish the job. Oh. That's unexpectedly proactive for an insider who just latched onto me begging for his life. I tilted my head. If you really do that, it would make things much easier for me. Are you sure? It's not okay. Not okay, at all. Hoo. But now, my life is linked to yours. If you succeed, I live. If you fail, I die too. Even if he's just a lowly magician, he still is a magician, isn't he? He surrendered just a few minutes ago, but as soon as his fate was decided, he was quick to strategize. Pleased with my companion's proactivity, I continued to listen as the young magician kept muttering. If you fail, my intestines will be skewered and crisped over a fire fueled by dog feces that the Cerberuses have excreted. Sob. My duodenum will be skewered with yours. In a way, you and I are already bound by the intestines. What kind of connection is that? It's extremely unpleasant. Besides, this boy is definitely not normal. Honestly, it's a bit scary. Then, I'll go ahead first. The young magician walked, dragging his cloak behind him. The lone seeker of truth watches your infiltration with interest. The eye living in the labyrinth predicts that your companion will betray you. The incarnation of love and lust gives generous points to the boy with the bangs. After a few steps, the young magician turned a corner. Splash. Splash. For a while, the sound of the boy's bare feet stepping into puddles echoed from beyond the corner. A little later. Hey! Stop! What's that? A stranger's voice addressed the boy. Get any closer and I'll shoot. I am sorry. Please don't kill me. What? It's just a bug. I pressed myself against the corridor wall, eavesdropping on their conversation. The owner of the voice seemed to relax their guard upon recognizing the young magician, displaying an unmistakably condescending attitude. What's a bug doing here, huh? I was cleaning the sewers and lost my mop. I just... Maybe, do you have a spare rag? I could borrow. A rag, you say? Dot. The voice chuckled. There's a rag right there. Why yes. You're the rag. Look at your cloak. Just roll on the floor and wipe it. You're born to be a rag. If something like you loses something, why come all the way here to borrow it? Thump. A sound of a short beating echoed. Ow. Rag bug, bug rag. Fits you perfectly. Quite poetic for a bug. Hey, it's lucky for me. I was bored guarding the prisoners. I couldn't hit anyone. The big spiders strictly forbid any personal torture of prisoners. They enjoy it themselves while forbidding us. Thump, thump. Familiar sounds of beating continued from beyond the corner. Yikes.
Ugh.
Sob. Just thinking about guarding prisoners and not getting to vent, it's a waste of my precious time. I should be focusing on my research. I can clearly see those bastards in my group getting ahead. This is troublesome, you know. I'm sorry, so sorry. Sob. I'm sorry. Okay. His attention isn't just drawn, it's completely glued. I immediately darted around the corner. On my first step, I entered the corridor, and on my second, I passed the magician who seemed to be the jailer. Ha! The magician, noticing my form, uttered a dumbfounded sound. He looked not much older than Karamu. As I had guessed, the jailer was in the process of kicking Karamu, who had fallen, and was frozen in that posture. What the? On the third step, I was behind the jailer. Flick. I tapped the back of his head with my finger and poured aura into it. By forcibly injecting aura into his spine, the jailer let out a groan and passed out. Thud. The jailer collapsed next to the young magician who had been beaten. The obstacle was resolved in an instant. The young magician, who had been crouching like a hamster, then looked up.
Ah.
Well done. Thanks to you, it was easy to subdue him. I patted the young magician's head once. Then I searched the fallen jailer's pockets. Clink. A bunch of old keys came into my hand. From now on, I will take good care of your identity. Really? Of course. It's only right to take care of your own people. You betrayed the mage tower you've been with for life to join me, and even actively helped me like this. It's natural to ensure your safety. I'll help you settle down properly in this world. Really? Are you serious? Can you swear it to the constellation you believe in? I mean... Of course I believe your words, but, so to say. He's been deceived all his life. I smiled. I don't particularly worship any constellation, but there is someone important to me. Yes, I swear on the name of the Ivantia ducal family. Just so you know, this is a serious oath, okay?
Ah.
The young magician covered his face with both hands and sobbed. Thank you. Thank you, invader. Thank you. It's nothing. Feeling an inexplicable warmth, I turned around. Before me was a typical prison. The inside of the cell was dark and hard to see, but I could definitely sense the presence of prisoners. Among them must be the assistant writer, Hamustra mentioned. All right. Now that the jailer is unconscious, let's slowly release the followers. That's when it happened. Screech. A grating sound tore through the entire prison, the corridor, and possibly the entire mage tower. It was a noise that instinctively made one cringe. I reflexively raised my aura to protect my hearing, then looked around in confusion. An alarm? Is this an alarm? What's going on? And then I saw it. The young magician was plunging a dagger into the unconscious jailer. Hook. Ha. The young magician was covered in blood. The already unconscious jailer was undoubtedly dead without putting up any resistance. The magician, his hands smeared with blood, wiped his sweat-drenched bangs. I finally killed him. I was stunned. Excuse me. Yes? Invader. Why did you kill the jailer? What? The young magician blinked, seemingly not understanding my question. Well, because he deserved to die. He was 30 years younger than me, yet he was favored by the big spiders and acted so arrogantly. I've been cleaning sewers for 131 years, 10 months, and 21 days, and he's already working as a jailer. Then, sob, that's unforgivable. Oh, and he beat me up. He hit me a lot. He deserved a bit of death. It's just cause and effect, I suppose. That. I barely managed to speak. Didn't you tell me not to kill him earlier? You said that if the jailer's life was lost, an alarm would be triggered. So, be careful. What? No. The young magician tilted his head. I said, you shouldn't kill the jailer. It was necessary for me to kill him. Right. My intuition is always spot on. Whenever I felt like this guy is kind of crazy, he was definitely crazy. Not once has it ever been, hey, relax. He was actually normal. No, it's always been like this, and it will continue to be so, even in this moment. Insane. Why did I trust a human being? Did I believe in a bald chimpanzee because there was nothing else to trust? Oh, of course, the alarm did go off. But think of it as a small price for realizing a bit of justice in this world. Now the chances of you and me being skewered together have increased, but isn't it a cheap cost considering? Screech. Screech. The unpleasant alarm kept blaring. Bei Hurayang spoke to me, lost in my sage mode. I told you. There's nothing but crazies on the 50th floor, right? Why do you ignore the words of a heavenly senior like me and treat them like crap? Keep it up and you'll become crap too, zombie. You're the craziest of them all, you lunatic. Chapter 294, Return of the Sword Emperor, 2. But do you have time to scold me right now? Bei Hurayang chuckled. The alarm has been triggered. Any moment now, the spiders will swarm us, right? Damn it. Followers of Hamustra. I ran towards the prison with the bunch of keys in hand. If you are a follower of Hamustra, the corner librarian is the greatest constellation in the universe. If there's anyone like that, make even a small groan. You. Weak groans came from various places. My aura-enhanced hearing didn't miss even the slightest sounds. 12 spots in total. I was about to pass the keys around, searching for the right one, when... There's no time for this. I threw the keys on the floor and drew my holy sword, slashing through the iron bars. Clang! Although they were as tough as if enchanted, pouring my aura into the sword cut them like straws. Quick, anyone who still has the strength to get up. Roar. That's when it happened. A menacing roar echoed from afar. I couldn't tell what kind of monster it was, but one thing was certain, it wasn't roaring to herald the dawn. The eye living in the labyrinth finds your crisis amusing. The lone seeker of truth is curious to see how you will overcome this situation. The incarnation of love and lust is excited about the prospect of you being captured. This is maddening. Just follow me. Let's escape. I cut the restraints on the followers. Who are you? Some were too severely tortured to even stand. For them, I pressed their acupoints to circulate aura and poured potions into them. Drink this. Gulp, gulp. Don't throw up. It's really good for you. I handed each follower a bottle. These were special potions from the apothecary whose services had become exorbitantly expensive. The loyal apothecary had said, "For master, I will provide these at a special friend's price. Thanks to this, I could generously use them in situations like this."
Oh.
This taste is unbelievable. Such a small dose and yet so effective. The apothecary's skills were evidently effective even on the 50th floor. Indeed, my friend. She was quite a lunatic too. Come to think of it, isn't this Karama kid somewhat similar to him? Would you be quiet? Most of the Hamustra followers had taken the potion. But most is not all. Wait. Who are you to tell us to follow? The woman, who seemed to suit glasses and had a sharpness in her eyes, looked at me fiercely. Her disheveled hair from imprisonment added to her fierce look. I am on Hamustra's side too, I said. She frowned. I've never seen a librarian like you. Until you explain what you're up to with helping us escape. There was no time to waste. Just focus for a moment. What? I accelerated my aura, extending my sense of time. On this elongated timeline, I carefully observed the surroundings. The Hamustra followers looked anxiously at the woman. They were not looking at a colleague or a subordinate, but clearly at a superior. They were eager to escape, but seemed unable to move without the woman's consent. Indeed. I quickly understood the reason. This woman is the assistant writer. Wasn't she almost treated like an apostle among the Hamustra followers? To lead the followers, I needed to gain her trust first. If she's an apostle-level figure to the constellations, she should understand telepathy. I spoke while maintaining the slowed timeline. The corner librarian has personally requested my assistance. Assistant writer. The words came out at a speed no ordinary person could imitate. To someone of lower stature, my sentence would sound like a single word, an incomprehensible buzz. Indeed, the assistant writer was astute enough to understand telepathy. She furrowed her brows. The librarian asked you to. Yes. To take care of his followers. He is currently in a situation where. I can't believe it. We are far from being the librarian's favorite characters. And he sent you to help us escape? It doesn't make sense. It would be a character-breaking and conveniently plot-driven action for the librarian to take. Favorite character ranking, character-breaking, convenient plot-driven development, what are these terms? It feels like the apostle of that constellation, but again, this is not the time for this. I anticipated this and obtained proof. Proof? The librarian said there's a phrase that only you and the librarian know, something you heard when you entered the apocalypse. I whispered into the assistant writer's ear. I am looking at your face right now. The assistant writer's eyes widened. Someday you will die too. When you close your eyes, if you remember my face, then the two of us will die looking at each other. It's the same. Looking at each other. The same. I will stop here for a while and wait until you close your eyes. Enough, no. I understand. I understand, so that's enough. The assistant writer made a difficult-to-describe expression. It's enough with just that. She seemed sad, angry, and surprised all at once. For a moment, the marks of a wound that everyone bears in life seemed to surface on her face. Yes, it's clear you were sent by the librarian. It's hard to shake off the feeling of lacking plausibility, but then again, I'm not the main character, after all. The assistant writer shook her head bitterly. Then, her eyes regained focus. She said, I'll take care of the followers. What's the escape plan? Well, originally, I planned to sneak out, but... In the stretched timeline, the alarm was still ringing with an eerie length. With this mess, let's just push through with force. Is that possible? The quicker this conversation ends, the more likely it is. Even though we're talking through telepathy, we don't have much time. So, quickly. This man is truly sent by the librarian. The assistant writer shouted to the surrounding followers. Everyone, follow this man's instructions. Damn spiders. Let's escape. Yes. The followers answered robustly as if they were just waiting for that word. Roar. The monster also roared robustly, as if waiting for that very moment. Finally, the monster turned the corner and burst into the prison. As a result, the followers' spirited yes turned into a twisted
Yes.
towards the end. Oh. A chimera. Haven't seen one in a while. The monster didn't waste time observing us, a trait of beasts always living in the reality of the present moment. And the present reality for this monster was to drool and charge towards us. That's a mutant bred from a manticore and a slime. Boom. Boom. The floor shook with each step of the monster. It had no eyes where they should be, replaced by a constant flow of sticky green fluid. Bei Hurayon clicked his tongue.
Ugh.
These perverts. The same 100 years ago as now. I'll take the lead. Just follow me without question. I charged forward. In dash, invader. That is. Karama tried to say something while swallowing a groan, but I ignored him and rushed in. I roughly guessed what he was trying to say. It must be something like, it can't be killed without a special method. Monsters inhabiting the 50th floor are generally unique. In essence, to kill a half-cutter, you must split it exactly in half as its name implies, and to kill a screamer, you must overwhelm it with volume rather than with a slashing attack. The chimera in front of me was a monster from the Mage Tower. In other words, it was a creature from one of the most difficult dungeons on the 50th floor. It wouldn't simply die by being hacked at recklessly. So. I slid, slipping under the chimera's body. Before the chimera could react, I plunged the tip of my sword deep into its belly. If I obliterate it to the point where not even a speck of dust remains, that'll do it. The sword flashed. What seemed like a red lightning bolt shot up, and then, with a loud burst, the monster's belly exploded. No, it wasn't just the belly. The monster's entrails, body, spine, head, and even the slime oozing from its eye sockets, its entire body exploded in an instant. Eek! The young magician screamed. I had just used the holy sword like a syringe, furiously injecting aura into it. The monster exploded alive due to the overwhelming injection of aura beyond common sense. Phew! I expelled the aura. Not satisfied with merely blowing up the chimera's body, I burned all its skin and bones, including the last remnants of its flesh. Even the dust-like ashes that briefly floated in the air were incinerated. I had literally erased the monster's existence. Okay. I quickly stood up and looked back. Forget strategy, just obliterate them. Let's go. The young magician, the assistant writer, and the followers stared at me blankly. What are you waiting for? Let's go. Yes. Right. Let's go. The assistant writer was the first to snap out of it. She grabbed and pulled the shoulders of other followers, occasionally kicking their butts to hurry them. The followers then joined in the sensible parade and started to flee with me. The lone seeker of truth is at a loss for words with your aura manipulation. The eye living in the labyrinth is surprised you are not tired and still in good shape. The incarnation of love and lust is already preparing an epic campaign just for you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But that's a story for later. That chimera was a creature specially beloved by the big spiders. The young magician panted as he followed behind me. Despite struggling to keep up, he made every effort to look at my face, seemingly shocked by what had just transpired. The chimera's heart, forming its core, was liquefied like slime, constantly moving within its body. If you don't precisely stab it, it won't die. Ah, I see. My method was the right answer then. The young magician opened and closed his mouth before deciding to concentrate on running. Roar.
Grr.
Grower. Monsters kept appearing in the corridor non-stop, as if springing from nowhere. If you don't want to die, move aside, you creatures. I swung my sword without slowing my pace. Pop. Crunch. Every monster my sword touched inflated like a balloon and exploded. Every 3 seconds, a fearsome monster appeared, but since I was dispatching one every second, the path ahead was clear. Hiya. For about 40 seconds, I exploded around 50 monsters. Then, I sensed something was off. I was tensely infiltrating, cautiously escaping, yet I felt no strain. Sure, the monsters were fearsome. But if I just blindly pumped aura into them until they burst, wasn't that enough? It's easier than I thought? The difficulty level wasn't as high as I had imagined. Perhaps, maybe. Am I much stronger than I thought? Stop. I halted my steps. Huff, huff. Huff. Invader. Just a little, slower, please. The sound of my companion's panting reached my ears from behind. It was strange. I hadn't used any lightness techniques, I merely enhanced my legs with aura to run, yet my companions were struggling to breathe. And they were all hunters who had reached the 50th floor. I looked up, still holding the holy sword. We were still underground in the mage tower, beneath the earth. Beyond that wall was the city of the 50th floor. Should I give it a try? I gripped the hilt of my sword tightly and activated a skill. I discard all memories of the hunters I met at the open-air tavern. Wuong! The holy sword was enveloped in red aura. Salvation of a torn goddess. A skill that trades memories for a burst of power. Unleashing the skill I inherited from Constellation Killer, I swung my sword towards the ceiling of the corridor. A single slash. A crimson storm surged. The sound of stone walls collapsing was drowned out by the roaring tempest. The followers screamed behind me. I swiftly deflected falling rocks from hitting the followers' heads and looked up. The eye living in the labyrinth is astonished. The ceiling had been cleanly pierced through. Oh! Through the gap in the ceiling, dark clouds were visible. The sky was always gloomy on the 50th floor. But even that dark sky seemed bright compared to the underground corridor's ceiling. It felt like looking up through a hole from the bottom of a well. It worked. The followers gaped at me in amazement. One by one, please. I'll lift you up. What are you waiting for? If the spiders catch up, it will be a headache. Let's form a line respectfully and sensibly. Invader. The young magician trembled and opened his lips. What are you really? I shrugged my shoulders and replied. The boss of evil.